My brother's case. My brother started in high school.
She's in
right
the
there.
audience.
Oh. Okay. We will call to order the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners meeting for Wednesday, September 6, 2017. If you could please rise, we're going to have the pledge in a moment, but first we're going to have a moment of silence for Fire Chief Jim Carroll from Blair Township, who passed away unexpectedly about 2 weeks ago. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Bonnie.
Klaus?
Here.
Gorfulet?
Here.
Lathrop?
Yep.
Mayor?
Here.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Crawford?
Here.
And Commissioner Johnson is excused tonight.
So before we go to the approval of the minutes, I just want to welcome our new County Administrator, Vicki Uppel, to her first meeting with us.
Thank you.
So welcome.
Pleased to be here. Thank you very much.
You have to talk right into the microphone so everybody at home can hear you. Okay. So we have approval of the minutes of August 16th, 2017. Anybody have any additions or anything?
Adam, I move to approve the August 16th minutes.
I'll second that.
So moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Mayer. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now is our first chance for public comment. Bonnie, would you read the rules, please?
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Okay. Do we have anybody for first public comment?
Chris Maxbauer, 503 West 8th Street, Traverse City, Michigan. I believe that the contract negotiation process was a bad one. The process is the same process that I used with Mr. Menzel's contract negotiation. Pardon me, I have a horrible cold. It's a bad process. In my opinion, the best process for the taxpayer is one where an ad hoc committee is formed. You get someone like Commissioner Wheelock, who has years and years of experience, has negotiated numerous contracts with the county board. You get legal counsel in there, perhaps someone like Commissioner Gorfulet, who has negotiated contracts with the NMC, Mr. Nelson. I just think that the process that you use to negotiate the contract is a bad one. The mistake that was made is easily remedied. But, you know, next time it might not be easily remedied. And I really do believe that you need to take a look at your process and use ad hoc committees. It's why you have more than one commissioner in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Once, twice? Okay, we'll move on. We have approval of our agenda. Does anybody have anything to add to the agenda or anything they'd like removed? No commissioners? Anybody from the public or from administration have anything? Okay. I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda is provided.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Klaus. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we have an agenda. Moving on to the consent calendar. Bonnie, please.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency minutes of June 15th. Number 2, Northwestern Regional Airport Commission minutes of June 27th. Number 3, Department of Health and Human Services minutes of July 28th. Number 4, Northwestern Regional Airport Commission minutes of July 25th. Number 5, Leelanau County resolution to support horticulture station funding to assist with eradication of spotted wing Drosophila. How to say that?
Okay, with that, does anybody have any of those that they would like removed from the consent calendar to be discussed further? Anybody from the public? Or any administration? Oh, okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So
Make the-
moved.
Moved by,
I'll make the motion, I'll second it. She can
okay,
make-
moved by Commissioner Gorfulet, seconded by Commissioner Lathrop. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have no special orders of business, no items removed from the consent calendar. We have some departmental items this evening. Resolution opposing Senate Bill 386 with our county treasurer, Heidi. Hello.
Hello. At the most recent Michigan Association of County Treasurers Conference, this bill came up, and we've been asked by the association to inform the boards as to, I provided a list of the summary. I just want to read the Senate Fiscal Analysis Elizabeth Pratt. Her fiscal impact summary says this bill would have unknown fiscal impact on state and local government by allowing a person with an interest in property to challenge a foreclosure judgment. In additional circumstances, the bill could lead to the identification of an interested party who would pay back taxes but potentially prevent a foreclosure sale. Alternatively, depending on the outcome of the litigation, the bill could delay a foreclosure auction that could raise funds to pay back the taxes and return the property for productive use. Our foreclosure fund contributes about $50,000 a year to the land bank, plus any excess proceeds that it has. 13, it was $98,000, 14, $71,000, and 15, $72,000. If there was a change and our auction wasn't allowed to go through, that could have a potential effect. It's minimal compared to like a Wayne or an Oakland County, but the change in procedure could cause problems for us. So just asking that the board consider this resolution.
Any questions or comments for Heidi?
Madam Chairman, I would move that we send a letter to the Senate and to our representatives requesting opposition or opposing Senate Bill 386.
Okay.
Support.
Okay.
One comment that I would make is Heidi mentioned what the land bank receives. Let us remember that is also the funding source for our housing trust fund that is used to make infrastructure improvements in affordable housing districts in our community.
Okay. Dan, did you have a comment?
No, I was going to
Or you were gonna
second,
second? Okay, so it was actually moved by Commissioner Wheelock and seconded by Commissioner Gorfulet. Any other comments? No? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Just a point of clarification.
Yes.
Did you want the resolution approved? The motion was for a letter, and so I'm just seeking out some clarification.
It's a
The
resolution.
resolution? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Okay. So resolution was actually what you meant. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Roll call, please, Bonnie.
Gurfulet,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes.
Klaus,
No.
Crawford.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Moving on. We have the purchase of 2 environmental health vehicles with the Health Department. Hello.
Dan Thorell, Environmental Health Director.
I'm Marissa Miller, and the Finance Director for the Health Department.
Okay.
And we're just seeking approval for the purchase of 2 vehicles for our environmental health program. These would be completely funded with state grant funds. And we're looking at 2 2018 GMC Sierras 4x4 pickups.
Okay. Yes, Cheryl.
What do you currently have?
Well, currently basically this would be replacing 2 2005 Colorado pickup trucks. And kind of the way it's worked, and we've done this in the past, when we got the 2005s is right now we're in a period of robust construction. We have a lot of revenue coming in, and we try to be proactive and replace vehicles during those times that we have this, revenue coming in, because there's also, usually a downside of that where we don't have any funds to replace vehicles. So it's kind of like a preventative maintenance type program.
So what can we do with the 2005s?
Typically, what we do is, there's a couple different options. We keep them in the fleet as spare vehicles. Vehicles are getting repaired. They can be used during those times.
Can they be used for animal control?
Could be a possibility, although I don't see that as a benefit to animal control, because I believe the animal control trucks are newer, 2006, and these ones have similar mileage. They're about a year older and probably about the same shape.
But you'd certainly look at that as a possibility.
I think it is something that we could look at as a possibility, although, for removing the cab off the current animal control truck and putting it on one of these vehicles, moving like the GIS trackers and things like that, I don't know that it would be worth it. I think they're similar mileage on these vehicles and similar wear and tear. But certainly if there's a benefit, we certainly would look at that.
What about selling them?
I was going to mention the other options. We have home visiting nurses that drive vehicles to different homes, and we might move those into that fleet so that there's more available for the nurses.
I would certainly favor looking at a use for them as opposed to having them just be a fleet vehicle parked somewhere. I mean, we still have to insure them, we still have to maintain them. If we can't find a use for them that's regular, I would think it would be prudent to sell them as opposed to simply having them sitting around depreciating even further.
I would totally agree. Yeah, and there is one of those vehicles, actually, the Emergency Preparedness Department has put a hitch on one of them and uses those to pull a trailer from time to time that they have emergency preparedness items stored in and have to set up clinics or use in exercises and whatnot. So there is a portion of that is used by that department. So.
And if worse comes to worse, of course, you could certainly put something out on the county website and see who within our vast array of other departments could possibly have a use for these vehicles.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it doesn't just have to be the health department that
Sure.
has a use for them, right?
Sure. No, we've done that in the past as well. I believe Facilities has taken a few of our trucks that we've gotten out of our fleet and replaced in the past.
So maybe you could come back and let us know, like, what ultimately happens with these vehicles, since you're getting 2 brand-new ones. We'll find out what happens to the older generation.
Sure.
That'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
Dan?
How many miles do these vehicles have on them, do you know?
I believe one has about 75,000 and the other about 85,000. So, I mean, they're not extremely high mile vehicles, but they're kind of hard miles, stop and go traffic, through town, whatnot. And the more the issue is that they're 12 years old, and just kind of getting to that point where...
And this, I think you might have said it, did you say that it's in your budget?
Oh, yes, yeah. And, so we have the money to replace those, and we would like to do it, when we have that money, because we don't know what it's going to be like next year as far as our revenues coming in, and, if construction remains robust, then, possibly we would, but we don't know that for sure, so.
I have no problem with the idea of buying the new trucks when the funding is available. I have a 2005 GMC truck. It's got 236,000 miles on it, and I drive it to the same kind of job sites that you go to every day. So a truck with 85,000 miles on it, it doesn't concern me whatsoever about still having that a very viable vehicle to use every day. Now, if my memory is correct, those Colorados were extended cabs, weren't they?
These ones are regular cabs.
Were they?
Yeah.
Because I know we bought some that were regular, and then I thought we bought the Colorados with the extended cabs.
I believe construction code had those.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember having the discussion because, my extended cab trucks are much more convenient to throw tool bags and prints and all the wonderful stuff that I have to take to job sites too. So when we bought the ones, and I think you're probably right, they probably were for construction code, we went to the extended cabs for them.
Right, and these ones are extended cabs, so we've, definitely looked at that and actually got really good prices on this My Deal website that gives state pricing to municipalities, and it's an unbelievable, website. And
again, I absolutely support replacing the vehicles while we have the funding available, but a 2005 truck that's got 85,000 miles on it still has a lot of life in it.
Well, I would agree with you, except these are Colorados with 5-cylinder engines, and it's not quite as, you don't get quite the lifetime out of them as you would like a V8 in a full-size truck, but.
Dan?
I want to join with Sonny in that I drive a truck and depend on it has 235,000 miles on it, and it's my everyday car. So it's hard for me to support a brand-new vehicle that only has 75,000 miles on it.
Well, I should probably explain, too, that we have to spend these funds in these areas because they're state program grants, and if we don't spend these on things that we need, then basically we lose the funding. So, I mean, that's an important piece of it, too. We're not just looking to replace them. I mean, we're trying to use the money that we have, and we're getting towards the end of the fiscal year, of course, as wisely as possible. That will ensure that our program is adequately equipped.
So is it totally covered by a grant, or do we have to match?
No.
100% covered by a grant.
Wow. Okay.
Cheryl?
You're talking about state tax dollars, and we're all real familiar with that concept. It's the use it or lose it mentality that is just wonderful use of taxpayer dollars. But I agree. I fully support using the dollars when you have them. I would really like to have you come back and give us a really great story about what happens with these trucks, because I'm telling you, I've bought used cars with 75,000 miles on them, and that was a new car to me. So I'm having a real tough time thinking that a $75,000 or $85,000 5-cylinder pickup truck is on its last legs. I mean, vehicles today are made to go 250,000, 300,000 miles. It's just the way it is. So tell us a good story about where these babies end up adopted, okay?
We will find them a good home. So.
Thank you. That would be awesome.
Anybody else?
We have someone in the audience.
Did you have a question? You have to step up to the podium if you have a... Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll allow it. You got to step up there so everybody can hear you. You still got to talk into the microphone.
My name's Jennifer Isbell. I live at 585 Spring Hill Road. Since animal control is under the health department, would that division qualify for getting a truck? And I'd like to know how old those trucks are and how many mileage. And I don't know if that's a question for you or for Deb.
No, I can answer that. Basically, and I'm aware the animal control trucks are not in the best shape, and, they have high miles too, although 100,000, I believe, on one of them and 85 on the other. And they're 2006 Colorados, and the thing with the funding that we're looking at, the dollars that we're using to purchase these vehicles, is they have to be specifically used for the on-site wastewater program, the private water program, and the food program. So it's very specifically tied to those programs. So we can't use those vehicles for a different use. So I don't
We
know.
can't use the new vehicles for a different use, but we could probably reuse or repurpose one of the existing vehicles if it made sense.
We could. I believe we could, yeah. Maybe I'm talking out of turn, but
No.
yeah.
Yeah, one of the older ones would be okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Do we have a motion?
Madam Chairman, I would move to approve the purchase of 2 new vehicles for the Environmental Health Division of the Health Department.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Klaus. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Roll call, please, Bonnie.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Mayor,
No.
Wheelock,
Yes.
Klaus,
Yes.
Gorfulet,
Yes.
Crawford.
Yes. Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. We have bids for appraisal services of this building and the Civic Center. We have John headed up our way.
Good evening, John Syke, Planning Director. A little bit
It won't
better.
stay up, okay.
Sorry about that.
You tried, okay.
As you recall, I was in front of you a few weeks ago and directed me to obtain some appraisals for some bids for appraisals. We went and contacted the 3 firms that provided bids to the previous rounds of appraisals that were done. Eventually, Nichols Appraisal Services was the one that was selected that did the appraisal for both the Whitewater and the Keystone properties. Of those 3 firms, only 2 of them responded, and you have those in your packet. The Nichols Appraisal Services has offered a bid of $10,800 for both the Gov Center and the Civic Center, and then has individual pricing for those as well. And then Northern Michigan Real Estate Consultants has a bid for the Gov Center at $16,600 and one for $19,850 for the Civic Center. I did ask both of the respondents if there could be, at least for the Civic Center, if they could look at if there was any of that property was parceled out for development. So looking at some of the frontage along Front Street there, that if that were used for other uses, for instance, commercial uses, to see what that might be. And that's not something we have to have, but I thought if they're going to go through this process, that it would be helpful for the board and the county to understand if there is any of that potential for splitting up that property.
Okay. Questions for John or comments or Tom?
Yeah, one of my questions is, we can't sell the Civic Center property per se, the park. That's right? Can't sell it?
No, you can sell it. It's encumbered through the grants, the state and federal grants that are attached to it. You just have to mitigate the cost of those grants in terms of the value that was placed on that property. So
Okay. Is the city interested in it?
I do not know that.
Okay. Well, if it was traded somehow with the city, I was wondering if the appraisal would be done differently if it wasn't actually a sale, that we wouldn't be selling it for its appraised value if we were trading it with the city.
Well, yes, I guess you could look at it that way. It would be something less than whatever the
Since we're
appraised value.
not actually selling it.
Right. But I guess that's the
No.
question is whether you want to go forward with the appraisal
Right.
or not.
So I'm just a little bit unclear as to to why we want to get an appraisal for the Civic Center. If it's going to remain the Civic Center, it's going to stay for the use that it is. As far as I'm concerned, that's what it should be used for. Having businesses along Front Street would create a lot more curb cuts along the road, I would assume, unless there was some back road to get to those businesses, or some extra road, off of Front Street. So that sounds kind of complicated. It kind of occurs to me to look a little bit like it might look today over down by Tom's on East Bay, where they've put some businesses along Munson, where it was just the setback before. Now there's some businesses that are, closer up to the highway there. So it might look something like that if they did it. I guess I would like to make sure that it stays used for the same purpose it's being used today and not split up necessarily. So I'm concerned about why we would get an appraisal for something we're not actually going to sell, so that's going to be used for another purpose. I don't have any question about having this building appraised.
Dan, and then Cheryl.
I can see Tom's concern. However, even if we are bargaining with the city, it'd be nice to know what the darn thing's worth, so that we can bargain for something in exchange that's the same worth. So I like to know. It doesn't hurt to know.
Cheryl?
I agree with Dan's point. I think that the whole rationale for obtaining the appraisals was for purposes of determining whether we could negotiate the city's interest in the governmental center in exchange for the Civic Center. And the only way to do that would be to know what the two parcels are worth. I am concerned about the bidding process, and I don't support the recommendation. I was very unhappy with the appraisals that we got on both Whitewater and Keystone. I thought that, a lot of information came in after the fact that led me to believe that both parcels may have been worth significantly more than the appraisals that we were given. And so I'm very concerned that the low bidder is the person who did those bids for us. My preference would be the other person who bid, but you haven't given us that option. You've given us the option of either accepting the low bid or throwing out all of the bids. That's a bit of a challenge, is that it's a take it or leave it kind of a deal, because the middle bidder is someone that I've personally had many, many years of experience with through divorce work and, having appraisals done of parcels and things. And I've just had a good experience with him. But yeah, the appraisals that we had done on Keystone and Whitewater were both appraisals that I was not comfortable with, so I couldn't support that.
I don't think the recommended suggested motion there is hard and fast. I think it was just offered as an approach to it. But certainly, it's at your discretion in terms of if you wanted to go with either one of those. I mean, or if you wanted to go and seek other bids as well, you could do that as well.
Sonny?
Well, whether we're talking about marketing or swapping or just evaluating the property so as that we know the value of our asset, it makes sense to have an appraisal. I like Cheryl, I'm a little concerned when I've got one proposal for $10,800 and the other one's for about $36,000. That's a lot of difference. Usually when I see those kind of differences, we're not bidding apples and apples. It just concerns me a little bit. But whether we're going to approve $10,000 for an appraisal or $35,000 for appraisal, I want to know where the money's coming from to pay for the appraisal. Because this isn't a budgeted expense. Mm-hmm. So, somewhere along the way we need to figure out if this is important to us, which it probably is, whether timing is perfect to do it or not, but one way or the other, we have to identify where we're going to pay for it. We spent a lot of time talking about budget constraints and yet we're looking at proposals for significant expenditures to do an appraisal on properties that we own. I do believe the appraisal needs to be done, whether it's done for the purpose of swapping the property or selling the property or whatever. I think it has to be done because if there's one thing we haven't done well, I don't believe we valued our assets well.
Is there a rush in anyone's mind to get the appraisal done, or could we budget for it for next year? It is not budgeted for this year. Would it?
Within the next few weeks, we're going to start the 2018 budget process.
So would it be worth it to say that we would like to budget for it for next year and have it done next year? I don't know that it's a pressing thing that we need done right away. Dan?
I asked the same question in my own mind just now. I don't know that it's a 911 kind of thing. And there's going to be, next year is going to be a challenging budget. So I kind of would like to wait till next year myself, if we can.
That way we can identify where the money could come from.
Don't we have a budget surplus?
From 16.
About 2 million and change, last time I looked at the audit. We can't find $35,000 out of there, or
So it would have to come, if we did it this year, it would have to come from...
I'm just saying.
Oh, no,
It would have to come from fund balance, is what she's saying.
not
Jody
disagreeing.
is just going to bust. Go.
Oh, I was happy to let you work that out. Yes, so we did allocate a significant portion of the surplus funds for the one-time lump sum payment to MERS in paying down our defined benefit unfunded liability. But that is certainly something that we could come back with a recommendation for funding if the board should choose to expedite this process for 2017.
I thought we had that 5-something million dollars set off in a separate fund prior to doing the audit.
The restricted balance had not been, or so the designation of funding, since it had not been transferred, was not shown as restricted in the audit.
So has it been transferred now?
So no, it has not yet been transferred, but I did meet with MERS the week before last and spoke with the deputy administrator just yesterday about the allocation of those funds.
What's the holdup, as long as we're talking about it? We authorized it quite a while ago to be done.
Yes, in June, and we had held off until July with the receipt of property tax revenues so that we would be cognizant of our cash flows.
And now we're in September.
Yes.
So when's it going to happen?
Just a matter of days, really.
What do we want to do? Dan?
I just wanted, Commissioner La Follette, I'm not being cantankerous, just want to know, what is the rush? Is there a reason we need to do it now with this year's budget?
The only reason that there's any impetus at all is that we were trying to make some decisions for planning going forward, whether we were going to, maybe try and sell this building and move us out to, the...
Just want to get it going then, yeah. And you want to get the thinking going.
It's only 5 years since you guys came up with the plan to build a new jail and move these services out to Lafreniere. I mean, we can wait another year, we can wait another 5 years. I mean, there's no hurry for anything. This is government, after all.
No, I didn't want to get that out of you. I just wondered if there was something I wasn't aware of that we need to do it.
No more so than anything else. I mean, if we say, well, let's just put it aside, when does it resurface? Does it resurface in 2 months, 6 months, 8 months?
Well, we can say when it should resurface.
We could ask it to be put in the
dictate that.
budget next year, 18. I'm not arguing, I'm just thinking. So.
Heidi has something to say.
I personally, as the county treasurer, I've been holding that cash liquid, and it's earning hardly anything. So my preference would be to get it paid rather than sitting in a CD that I have to keep collateralized.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Ron?
Regarding, Cheryl, your comment about Mike Tarnow and the appraisals that he did for us on the Whitewater
No,
and
he
the
didn't do
Keystone?
those. Wasn't Mike Tarno.
Was the other one?
It was the other one.
Nichols.
I thought that, okay,
And Nichols was...
Nichols is
Nichols was the one that did the other
two.
Mike Tarno was the one I would like to do
and Mike
them.
Tarno's, isn't Mike Tarno the one that is for?
Mike Tarno's the one that's almost twice as, it's more than twice as much money.
3 times as much.
It's about
3 times as
as
much.
money.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, okay, back to the Keystone and the Whitewater. We didn't sell Keystone, but we had an offer for $400,000 on a $450,000,
Which ended up being a $300,000, but yeah.
which didn't, yeah, this property got smaller. But then the Whitewater, we had a $500,000 appraisal, or $450,000, had a $450,000.
It was 250, and we took 255 for it.
And took $255,000 and had a $400,000 offer, and we took $250,000. So just kind of wondering what those two, the appraisals had no value on anyway. And we paid for an appraisal and they provided us no value, but
Yeah, I don't disagree.
I mean,
But we had an appraisal of 250 and somebody offered us 400. You don't usually get an appraisal twice the value of something unless it actually has that value, right?
So for the governmental center, back to where we should be here. What, Sonny?
Well, I'm inclined to wait, and I know everybody thinks I wait too long sometimes, but I'm inclined to wait for some additional discussion, both on the appraisal and the funding for it, but more importantly, where we want to go with these two properties. I think that's a discussion the board has to have, because there's no sense in spending $36,000 for an appraisal if we don't have some intention of doing something with them. Yes, it's nice to know the value of your assets, but $36,000 is a lot of money. I've said before, if there was two pieces of property that Grand Traverse County owned that I was interested in talking about a sale on. One was the Whitewater property, which we have disposed of. The other is the Civic Center. And I would support the Civic Center sale as long as it went to the city. Everyone believes it's a city park anyway. Nobody thinks it's a county-run park. And the Civic Center, if we were to sell it, give it to the city, whatever the situation is, that's not one-time money. That's a couple $100,000 a year for every year into perpetuity that we spend operating and maintaining that park. So I think it's important that we get the appraisal. I don't think it's important that we get it today.
I don't disagree.
Dan?
I'm wondering, I feel like, I agree with both Gore Follett and I always call him Senator Wheelock. He's been here long enough to be senator. Maybe we should form, I'm just BSing now, maybe we should form an ad hoc committee and approach the city. I mean, has anyone, let's do something. Let's see if they're interested in buying it.
And if they're interested, then it might be worth it to pay for the appraisal. I mean, we could
Or
see.
at least split the cost of the appraisal.
Well, there's value in that. Good.
We have in the past, and I know I'm sometimes stuck in the past, we have in the past regularly held intergovernmental meetings with the townships and with the city. We haven't done that now for 4 or 5 years. I think it's an appropriate thing for us to do. And these are the types of issues that we talk to when we do those meetings. And, I would, at this point in our year, I would move that we hold off on the appraisal at this point and talk about the possible disposition of these parcels of property and what we would want to see done with them, and the appraisal as part of our 2018 budget process.
Okay, so let's have Tom and then Dan.
Okay, Tom, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Tom hasn't.
Yeah, that's what you just said, Sonny, is kind of where I was coming from before. That is, if we're going to not make a regular sale of the Civic Center, that one entity, the city of Traverse City, would be who we'd be looking at, as far as I see it. And we might as well start some kind of conversation with them, write them a letter and get some kind of response before we move ahead, because I don't know who else we would be doing business with if it wasn't them. And since it's not going to be a regular sale, that they share in the cost of the appraisal. And
they own 20-some% of this building as well, so.
Well, let us not forget that we do have other options to sell the property at the Civic Center, but we do have to fulfill a payback of some of the grant money and some of those requirements. But that parcel could be sold as an open sale on the market. There are restrictions of how you have to go about it, but it can be sold that way. I'm not sure that's this board's intention of where they would like to see that parcel, the best use of that parcel of property.
Dan, did you have something?
Well, I'd want to move forward in some way.
Okay. I like the idea of an ad hoc to
ad hoc
approach the city
committee or
and
something,
talk to
rather
some
than
of
just say, well,
them.
we're going to talk about, let's get with them and
Sure.
and see, so,
I like that idea.
yeah.
If I could just make a suggestion, since it's Parks property, ultimately it's going to have to go in front of the Parks and Recreation Commission, so it might be a good idea, if you do want to form an ad hoc committee, that you include at least one park commissioner to be involved in those discussions.
We have a park commissioner who would like to speak.
We do?
Yes, we do. He has been over there going like this.
He wants to
So we might as well let him talk.
I know, hard to believe I want to talk.
I know.
Andy Merrick, Grand Traverse County Parks and Recreation Commission. Wasn't that long ago, you guys had a piece of property for sale. Came to us about selling it. We said, go ahead. We didn't like the price. Here we are once again, having a conversation, but I don't hear conversation about sitting down at the Parks Board about what their plans are. We're in the process right now of going through our asset plan, what we're going to do, where we're going to go, where we want parks to go. And we had extended, or were about to extend an invitation to you guys to have a joint meeting. So that the Parks Board and the County Board of Commissioners are on the same page about what we're going to do. And you're now talking about spending money before we have a conversation where we're all on board about what the plans are for Grand Traverse County and the properties and the Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec Board has been working feverishly to reduce our strain on the general fund, and we've been reducing it every year through partnerships with American Legion Baseball. If you sell that property, what's going to happen there? With the Civic Center YMCA agreement that we've got that's helping reduce those costs, and still allowing the piece of property to be used by the citizens of Grand Traverse County. I think we need to have a discussion between both boards before you spend money to have an appraisal done, because after we have a joint meeting, it may be decided that we don't want to sell that property or go into any kind of discussion with the city. I don't think you need to have this done right now. I think we should have a joint meeting as we are extending to you guys. I think we're waiting until your new administrator came, by the way, welcome, and got her settled a little bit before we threw another big issue at her. And I hope that you guys can hold off just a little bit on spending money on this appraisal, sit down with the Parks Board so we're all on the same page, so we don't pull something on you guys and you guys have to undo something that we did and it becomes a fight between boards. I think we can work together for what's going to be best for the citizens and the use of the parks.
Cheryl, another Parks Commissioner.
I don't think that there's any conversation that I've heard tonight from anybody that we want to sell the Civic Center. The total conversation is about a trade with the city, if that can happen, period. I don't believe there's any will amongst this board to sell the Civic Center. I haven't heard anybody say that. So let's not start that bandwagon going again, because I don't think we're talking about that.
But like I'm saying, I think we need to have a meeting of the minds between both boards.
I don't disagree.
As we discussed at our
I don't
board.
disagree. And I think Sunny made a motion, and I would support it.
The motion was?
The motion was that we not proceed with the appraisal at this time, and we can talk about the disposition of the properties, whether it includes a joint meeting with the Parks and Rec, maybe an ad hoc committee, however that's going to work, and we talk about what we want to do in the 2018 budget. We haven't identified this funding in this year.
Support, okay. Moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Gorfulet to not proceed. Any further discussion?
I do want to thank John for his time. I know
Yes.
it does take time to put this stuff together. And I do want to thank John for his time and effort to do that, but I'm sure that you understand, my reluctance to move forward with it at this point.
Yeah, no problem. If you want, we could, maybe I'd devise some type of approach and that maybe then you want to take a look at, and talk with Chris Erickson in terms of, I know they're looking at updating their Parks and Rec master plan here soon, and if you want, then we could maybe provide you with some recommendation on an approach or a couple different options.
I think we're just better off not to try to make a decision on this tonight, to move forward and do a little more research.
Okay, Tom, did you have something else?
Well, I'd just like to know that you will contact the people who bid on it and explain to them before they read it, maybe in the newspaper, perhaps.
Matt's faster than that. You aren't going to make that happen.
Too late, isn't it?
Yeah. Maybe you can call them when you finish at the podium. So. And thank Andy for, keeping us on track. We do need to discuss things with the Parks Board. That's something that we have made a mistake on in the past. So I'm glad that Andy was here to speak up and that Cheryl spoke up too. But other than that, I'm very reluctant to see anything different about the Civic Center property in the future. I think the use should stay just as it is today, and find out if the city has any interest in what we're talking about, because I don't think I've ever seen anything in writing from the city that they are interested. We just assume that they are. That's it.
Okay. So, all those in favor of these negative motions, but all those in favor of not moving ahead on this, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Welcome.
All right, we're going to move on. Where were we in here? Oh, temporary access easement. Chris, ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us what this means.
So what this is about is, if you recall, the various presentations by Carl Platts with the Army Corps of Engineers. As part of the dam removal project, when it comes to Sabin Dam, the Army Corps is requesting that there be a non-federal sponsor for the project and for the city's portion, which is the Union Street Dam. The non-federal sponsor, it looks like, is going to be the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians. So early in the summer, John Petoskey, who's the tribe's council, asked to meet with me, asked to meet with representatives of CRA, county administration, and Army Corps. A meeting was held in June in which Mr. Petoskey informed us, as part of their process in becoming the non-federal sponsor, the Army Corps is requiring them to have some type of ownership interest in Sabin Dam. So we discussed giving them a license, giving them an easement, even throughout the idea of transferring ownership of Sabin Dam to the tribe. Ultimately, what was agreed on, and I believe this is the simplest approach, is to draft a temporary access easement, giving the tribe access to the Sabin Dam site during the construction, where the river will be restored and the dam will be removed. So this language that we've given you in the temporary access easement that was suggested by Army Corps staff, it meets their criteria, it's satisfactory towards the tribe, and it works for us because this is just temporary. We don't have to worry about, right now, dealing with permanent interest in the property or transferring ownership in the property. Maybe that comes down the road. That's a big maybe. But for now, this would work for everybody. So again, this is necessary to keep the project moving forward, and it has been reviewed and accepted by the Army Corps, by the tribe, and by myself. So it needs approval from this board. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about the temporary easement.
Dan and then Sunny.
Okay. I think you said it is temporary,
It is temporary.
and how long will it be? Will they have an easement?
During the construction process, however long that may be.
And that's spelled out in the agreement?
That is spelled out in the easement, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sonny?
Madam Chairman, I would move to grant a temporary access easement to the Grand Traverse Band to provide them access to the Sabin Dam through the construction period as outlined in this agreement.
Support. So, moved by Commissioner Wheelock, supported by Commissioner Gorfulet. Any other?
Well,
Go
I think
ahead.
it's important to note that this is kind of a paper shuffle as far as I'm concerned. It just simply allows the Grand Traverse Band, who have been a great partner through this project. You know, I'm not quite sure why the Army Corps felt all of a sudden they needed to have something from the Grand Traverse Band about Sabin Dam. They didn't need it for Brown Bridge, they didn't need it for the Boardman Dam, but now for Sabin they have to have one because the city, the county, and the band have been partners in this project from the beginning. And we're, 15 years into this project now? And, you know, all three partners have been active participants. So I'm not quite sure why this is a paper shuffle, but I do appreciate the fact that it is designated a temporary thing, so as that once the dam is removed, construction is completed, all of that water area and the impoundment area goes back to the county. And it is a county asset.
Anybody else? Tom?
I don't know if Chris knows, but is one of the reasons they are doing this because it's somewhat inaccessible to bring equipment in and out? No?
No, it has absolutely nothing
Okay.
to do with that. So if you remember when Carl Platts presented to the board, for the county and city to get the federal funding to have both our dams removed, Sabin and Union Street, there has to be a non-federal sponsor. That non-federal sponsor is kind of the leader, takes a leadership role in the project. As I indicated, tribal leaders, they intend to do that. They will execute a partnership agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers, so it's a federal requirement under federal regulations that whoever the non-federal sponsor is has to have some type of interest in the project. And so that's it. So it has absolutely nothing to do with the actual physical construction. It is simply complying with federal regulations.
A paper shuffle.
Here's I can tell.
It's an
All it
important
is.
paper shuffle.
It is.
They have to have an ownership interest in
They
order
do.
to have the ability to have.
That's
the
one
leadership.
lawyer giving another lawyer something to do.
That's correct. Show a little respect.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on. Old unfinished business. Animal control. Cheryl. Ready?
Yes, I am. I would ask if Heidi could come to the podium, because I need her help with this piece. I am asking the board to consider transferring monies that are in the general fund that are actually monies that were as a result of fines and criminal actions around animal control, because I believe that animal control is trying mightily to become self-sufficient, and so the monies that they earn should be assigned to them rather than to animal control. So I've asked Heidi to give us an idea of what that dollar amount is. So that's why she's here.
Actually, the animal control citation funds go through district court, and they're combined with other charges for service. So I asked Carol Stocking, in 2013, there was $8,775, 2014, $7,575, 2015, $8,290, 2016, $1,410, we all know why, and 2017 year-to-date, $3,470. So for current year 2017, according to Carol, we've got $3,470 receipted into the general fund revenue for animal control citations.
So that's the first part of my report.
Okay.
And I don't think we can take a vote tonight because it wasn't on the agenda and there wasn't notice.
Right. And also, if we take that money out of the general fund and put it in, move it over to animal control, what was it slated for? Are we taking away for something else, correct?
It's part of district court's charges for service revenue line item. I've involved Jody in the email, and I believe Jody and Carol had some back and forth. I've got my email here.
I have never received a response from either you or Carol from
You
my
haven't gotten a
follow-up
response from
email?
Carol?
No.
And I guess the point of my bringing it up is more to see if I can move the needle as opposed to actually moving the money at this point in time.
Okay.
I don't understand philosophically why animal control money should go in the general fund. I mean, we're saying to animal control, you know, we want you to carry your own weight. We want you to sell those dog licenses. We want you to, you know, generate money, and yet when they generate money, we're throwing it in the general fund, and that just doesn't seem appropriate to me. So I kind of wanted to bring that up as a point of conversation because, you know, Dan and Bob and I are this ad hoc committee for animal control, and we've had 2 meetings so far that have been very well attended, and there's a lot of energy and a lot of passion surrounding this. I'm sure you all saw the letters that you got from citizens this weekend about the seagull that was impaled on a roof, and our very own Deb Zarafa crazily climbed out on a roof and pulled a pecking seagull off. That God knows how many days it had been up there, the poor thing. But the point is that we're trying to build some momentum here for animal control, and this seems like a real easy thing to do, is to let them have the money that they generate. So I wanted to bring that up as a point of conversation. The other thing that I wanted to report was Jen Isabel is here tonight, and she's a very passionate animal person. She has a website, I think it's called Pet Friends, has a lot of people that follow her on that. She came up with an incredibly creative advertising campaign to help us encourage our citizens to buy their dog licenses, which is what we're looking at as perhaps being the solution to our funding problem, is if we can get everyone who has a dog to actually buy their license. She has created this campaign that is ready to go across multiple media, so online, radio, tweets, all that kind of stuff. I don't know any of that stuff, but anyway. So I met with Rich Brower, and many of you probably know Rich Brower, who's Brower Productions, and Rich Brower has generously offered to shoot at no cost a 30-second and a 15-second TV commercial for us in order to assist us with this campaign. There is momentum here. There is passion here. There is the possibility that you know, we could get people fired up about stepping up to the plate, buying their animal licenses, and hopefully generating some money so that we can keep our animal control officers. I think we had a report that one of the officers is supposed to be no longer with us, like starting in October or November. That's not a good thing. We can't go back to one officer again. That's just not going to get it. The other thing I wanted to raise for your consideration, and that's why Heidi is still standing there, is that I would like the board to consider the possibility of a millage for animal control. Heidi, did you run some numbers for me?
Yeah, Cheryl asked me to do a projection. Based on equalization's 2017 taxable value, not taking into consideration any July border reviews for 17, which we don't have yet. She asked me to project how much what it would take to get us to approximately 300,000. A .07 millage would get us to approximately 331. A .06 millage would get us to 284,000. For a $100,000 home, that is $7 and $6 a year. $7
$7.76?
$7.
$7.
$7 for .07 and $6 for .06.
For a $100,000 taxable value.
Okay. Our neighbors immediately to the west, that would be Benzie County, they have a dog millage in place and have had it for a number of years. And I haven't looked beyond to see what other counties have animal control millages in place, but I think it's interesting that Benzie County has an animal control millage, because they're not one of the more wealthy counties, but they have passed a millage for that. So the purpose of just kind of throwing all this out there is to let you know that, we're doing stuff, we're getting information, we're brainstorming some ideas, but it's all about money at the end of the day. It's how do we find the money? How do we have a sustainable source of money to provide this service? And will the citizens support the choice that we recommend? And we don't have that answer yet, but we're still working on getting the information and getting the pieces. The citizen organization, of which Jen Isabel is here and is a part of that, I believe are committed to help us with this campaign to try and get people to step up and buy their animal licenses. And I think that would be obviously a really good first step, because if we can get a really solid response to that, then that makes it so that we don't have to maybe look at some of these other choices. But I've also spent a significant amount of time in conversation with our sheriff, because we talked about moving animal control from the health department to the sheriff's department. He is concerned that if we don't have a steady, stable income stream, that it would be, a program that would be like an unfunded mandate. I mean, you set this thing up and then you don't have the money to sustain it. So I'm not looking for any action tonight, but I wanted to update you on what the ad hoc committee has been doing, what the citizen committee has been doing. I don't know procedurally if I need this board's approval in order to start this campaign, because I would like us to start this campaign. Your socks are going to be knocked off when you see this campaign. It is incredibly clever, and I think people are going to love it. So, that's my report.
Dan?
When a county sheriff's deputy writes a ticket, that money goes into the general fund, am I correct?
A portion of it.
What's the
Pardon?
ticket for, in particular, animal control issues?
No,
or any
I'm
ticket?
asking, when a sheriff's deputy writes a ticket and the ticket is paid, those funds go into the general fund, am I correct?
There's, Carol would be the best to respond to this, but my understanding is a ticket has fines, cost, and fees, so it's broken down. A portion goes to different places depending on which officer. If a city officer were to write a ticket, a portion of it would go to the city. If a township officer would write a ticket, a portion of it would go to the township.
Right.
It would be a portion of, but if a county, that portion goes to the county.
But none of that money goes to the sheriff's department to employ or improve sheriff's pay or anything. Am I right? But my point is, cops don't make money for their department by writing tickets. Am I correct?
Don't know.
I talked to a judge about this, yeah. Hey.
Andy, do you have an answer?
I do. I sit on another board involved with this.
Oh, Andy's our board of all trades here. Oh, the library, okay.
Traverse Area District Library Board member and vice president of that board. Penal fees go to the library. That way, or a portion of them. That way, the sheriffs are not generating revenue by setting up speed traps to fund their own department. That's why I'd be concerned about taking money from the general fund for the fines that are written or tickets that are written or whatever that animal control generates through fines, is you may be encouraging your officers to go out there, ticket people to keep a job. And that's not a good thing.
But it goes to the library, is what you're saying?
Penal fees go to the library.
But you're okay with that?
The fines have to go somewhere, And they had picked the libraries because there's been studies that have shown that if you fund libraries, your crime rates go down. That was the thought through the Michigan legislature years and years and years ago, when that they had to figure out where to put the fines.
I might be able to find a study that says that if you have pets, crime rates go down.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Andy.
Just note, I think the numbers that were provided by Carol are just animal control citations, not speeding tickets or anything like that.
Yes, Dan.
Is my understanding.
I
Okay.
just want to make sure, and my concern is, I don't want anybody, I'm not saying that our current person would do it, I don't think she would, but as time goes on, I don't really want the people writing the tickets and to know that they're going to collect the funds somewhere down the line. That bugs me. The other thing, as long as we're talking about being people on the roofs and seagulls, I know that was a heroic thing to do, but I know that our animal people have training, but do they have training to be that high on roofs? Do we want county employees doing that? I was concerned about that. Regardless of the heroism of it and the rightness of it, I was a little bit frightened by we having a county employee on some 100-foot roof up there. I don't like it.
The undersheriff's having a cow back here in the corner, but I'm not sure he wants to add anything
You
at
don't
this
need
point.
to add anything, Nate? Come on up, Nate. It's up to you. You can step up to the microphone. You might as well.
I don't know if I should. Nate Elger, undersheriff. We don't get funds from tickets. We never have. The state of Michigan mandates where the funding goes from citations issued and from arrests, things of that nature. It's all defined by law. So we have a small portion of funding that comes to law enforcement in general through Act 302 funds, and that's it. So we don't get any ticket revenue at all. Specific to millages, we have had, I'm requesting that counties across the state give us information about how their animal control programs are funded, and 47 of 83 have responded, and two are millage funded. One is county funded and millage funded, and the rest are county funded. So that's a significant majority of counties are general fund budgeted animal control programs. So, but I wanted to speak to that. Andy's correct. It also goes to the courts, and then there's another location. We don't get anything.
And I didn't say they did. I
No, you
said
did not.
what you said.
I just wanted to
Right. No,
clarify.
get
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments, wisdom, enlightenment? Sonny?
I don't know how enlightened it is, but, I certainly encourage the campaign that would get people to license their dogs. That is definitely revenue that we can denote to animal control. I am not sure I'm in favor of giving fine money directly to them, but I would be willing to talk about an allocation from the general fund to their budget every year. What that number is supposed to be is a whole lot of discussion. We've been through that for the last 6 months pretty heavy about what is the proper amount, the level by which you fund animal control. And, that's the discussion Nate and I have had, and the sheriff and I have had on multiple occasions. They don't want, there's a lot of discussion about the fact that this is a ordinance enforcement, whether it be a county ordinance or a state law or whatever. This is an enforcement process. So the logical thing is maybe it should be under the sheriff's department, but it can only be under the sheriff's department if it's properly funded and properly staffed. And at this point, I'm not sure we are either.
Cheryl?
And I would just like to add, Sonny, that, I think it's really simplistic to say that animal control is about enforcing dog licenses, okay? I don't think that the passion that you're seeing from the community is about whether or not people have dog licenses. It's about rescuing animals that are in danger because they're running in the road, or they're tied up outside in the middle of the winter with no water, or they're impaled on a rooftop, or whatever. This is the animal control function that people want. They're not looking for somebody to go out there and make sure somebody has their license, although if someone's being bitten by a rabid dog, they sure want somebody to respond to that. So And I just,
But
it's
let us
broader. It's
Let us
broader.
remember, this is not a mandated service to be
Understood
provided
that.
by the county.
Understood that, but I think we need to figure out, do we want to survey the community? Because I think I've heard really loud and clear from them, it doesn't matter if it's mandated, they want it supported, they want it funded. We get emails all the time, we do. People are passionate about their animals. They want them protected, they want to make sure they're safe.
Okay, any other comments or anything? Tom?
Yeah, well, I spoke to my vet, I have a dog, and one of
Is it
the reasons that people don't have their licenses is because that's really associated with their rabies shots.
That's right.
And they don't have to have a rabies shot every year. And so some people might get the license when they get their rabies shot, but then they don't get the license for year 2 and 3 because they're not connecting it to that shot. And hopefully they're getting the rabies shots. So,
They're good for 3 years.
yeah, that's part of the reason some people fall out is because it's associated with the shots. So when we're educating the public about how important it is to have a dog license and where the money goes, and we need the money for that purpose, that might pick up a lot of people who are not paying attention because of that schedule of getting the rabies shot. That's all I'm saying. I think you're missing some of the revenue that way alone.
Okay, Dan?
I think you're right. I know that with my own dogs, they're getting elderly, and one of the things that we've read is that dogs get too many darn shots, and there's too many required. And I know that I'm reluctant to have them get all those shots. I don't know, I haven't studied rabies itself with animals, but I agree with Tom that some people are that tend to lean more toward natural medicine are a little bit reluctant to get so many shots every year for their dogs.
Okay, so, thank you very much for the...
Keep you posted.
Please keep us posted, and if we need to put anything for decision on an agenda, let us know. But thank you, that's a very good update and lots of good work. Yes, Tom?
Yeah, so if it is connected to the shots and people aren't going in to get the shots, it's, possibly because they can't afford it. So maybe part of the education program needs to be alternative ways of getting animals taken care of for people who can't afford all that other care, because it does add up. Adds up quite a bit, actually. Yeah.
And we have one more comment allowed from our animal control officer. Yes, you do. I'm sorry. Everybody at home wants to hear what you have to say.
I was just going to say, we have to get our license tabs, and we have to pay for our licensing and all that, and a lot of us don't have the money to do that either. Going back to the licensing for dogs, it is a state law, it's an ordinance. I didn't make those laws, I didn't write the ordinance. We have to do that, we have to enforce that whether they want to or not. And just a comment on the rabies shots, you can opt out. I have an elderly dog that has Crohn's disease, of all things. And my dog, I get a letter from my veterinarian who says he does not recommend the rabies shot. You can still buy the license. Heidi has graciously facilitated that. We wrote up a document that works really well. People are using it. Sometimes in the breeding of dogs, you don't give rabies shots during that time. So it's a temporary thing, but you can still buy the license. So I just wanted to make a comment to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Okay, we're going to move on. Second old unfinished business, amended administrator contract. So apparently, by state law says that the administrator contract can't be longer than 3 years. So although Mr. Menzel's contract, when it was signed, was actually for 3 years and 3 months, and that stuck somehow. That was never caught. That was signed on October 8th of 2015 and went to December 31st, 2018. So these things do kind of slip through. So, yes, sir.
I'd like to make the motion that we amend Ms. Upple's contract to abide by the law as we know it, and I enthusiastically do so.
Okay.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Lathrop, supported by Commissioner Wheelock. Any discussion?
Can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
This is something I'll own up to. I should have caught it. I should have caught it with Tom's contract. If anybody wants to cast stones at me.
Nobody's going to
No
cast stones
stones.
at you.
Yeah.
No stone throwing today.
No.
No. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. All done. We'll sign it. Very good. Moving on. New business. This isn't exactly what this is, but it has to do with Veterans Affairs. And I have my notes from earlier because Jen told me exactly what we need to do here. The veterinary, see, animal control done, Veterans Affairs now, something different, change hats. The Veterans Affairs Board has a structure that is not really compliant with state law, is that correct?
I'm going to pitch it over to Chris.
That they've changed the requirements for who sits on these boards and...
Yeah, state law has changed. It has to deal with reality. The old law talked about veterans representing World War II, veterans, Korean War veterans, etc. With those veterans getting up in age, that law has been changed. Because there's been a change of the law, there's going to need a change in the structure of the Veterans Affairs Committee. And so that's why we have this as an agenda item to form an ad hoc committee. I know Mr. Wagner, the chair of that committee, is here. I don't know if he wants to address the board. Certainly, he should have some involvement in this process, but there should be an ad hoc committee created that will be involved in searching for new Veterans Affairs Committee members.
That will abide by the new structure.
By the new...
Set by the state.
Yes, correct.
And yes. So did you have something that you'd like to come up and talk to us about, sir?
Thank you, Chris. Yes, my name is James Wagner. I'm chairman of the board of the Grand Traverse County Department of Veterans Affairs Office. And yes, I would like to be a part of that committee. We have submitted a couple of names to the county, and we're in hopes that they would be looked at and appointed to the board. We lost our World War II veteran. He 98 years old. He's still alive, but his family wants him closer to him, so we're missing him. We only have 4 members on the board, myself included, and we're open to adding more members to the board. I'm hoping they're all veterans, and I'm going to stick with that. But yes, we'd like to bring it up to compliance.
Okay. And I think that there was also some talk that because we also serve Leelanau and Benzie counties, and they contribute toward our Veterans Affairs Office, that they maybe would like possibly voting members. They have ex officio members right now, but they don't.
They are not allowed to vote.
Right.
That was decided by Bob Cooney, looked into it, and the restriction is they must be a member of the Grand Traverse County.
Oh. Is that?
I will, I'll
we check
confirm
that
that.
out?
I will check that with Bob Cooney. I am going to provide a memo to the Veterans Affairs Committee at their last meeting in September outlining their duties, their responsibilities under state law. We'll certainly look into that.
Okay. So what we need to do is form an ad hoc committee who will work with Mr. Wagner to get this all straightened out, to check the structure, to make sure we have the right makeup of members, to see if we can't get Leelanau and Benzie, to see if they might be able to have voting members, all kinds of things to make sure the structure's correct and moves forward in the right way. That would be the charge to this particular ad hoc committee. So, yes, ma'am. Cheryl.
Chris, does the law require that the members must be veterans?
Yes.
And does it say, anything as far as, I know the old ones designated the wars, It doesn't
This
do
does
that
not
anymore.
anymore.
There's no service designation.
Right.
Chris, do you know if a requirement is an honorably discharged?
That I'd have to look into. I don't know that off the top of my head, but.
Okay.
Okay, so Dan?
Question, they're requesting that we form an ad hoc committee, this board,
This board form an ad hoc committee of three
Of-
members
of
of
the
this...
board.
Yes, 3 members of our board to assist Mr. Wegner as
Okay.
well, to study the structure, to make sure the structure's going forward is correct, and to come up with members for the board, things like that.
Now,
Yes.
even though he's not here, I wonder if it would be beneficial to have Bob be on that committee.
I like to appoint people to ad hocs when they're not here anyway.
Yeah.
So- I kind of like to do that. If you don't show up, you always take the
I'm not
chance that you're
saying
going to get a...
I'm not saying that you shouldn't appoint him, I'm just
No.
saying
No,
I wonder
that's-
if he might be considered, because he is a vet.
I was going to do that anyway, because
Okay.
he's already part of the Veterans Affairs, and because he's not here.
Yeah.
I like doing that.
I love that.
So if you don't show up, you do take the chance that I'll put you on an ad hoc.
That's right.
So, so besides Commissioner Johnson, who would like to take this on?
I'll do it.
Dan? Cheryl had expressed an interest, I believe.
Well, I don't want to overload it. I mean, how many do you need?
We need 3 commissioners, so we have Bob.
And Dan.
Dan.
And you.
And, oh, you want me to do it?
Well, I
Yeah.
thought you were interested in doing it.
Okay. I can do that.
There you go.
Okay, so you and me and Bob and
Okay.
Mr. Wegner.
Good.
And we will, we'll have, Chris will help us start up some meeting schedule, and we'll...
One of the first orders of business would be to determine whether or not Leelanau and Benzie should have voting
Yes.
members as long as they're contributing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something we'll look into.
Okay.
And we should probably evaluate somewhere early soon as to whether or not their contribution is appropriate.
We can look into that as well.
The bottom line is, we're all preparing the next year's budget. If we're going to be asking Leelanau or Benzie for additional funding because of the number of veterans that are being served, we should be notifying them of that soon also.
Yes. It's a big charge to us, Dan. Are we okay?
You didn't...
Pardon?
We're good?
I'm good. I'll
Okay.
help, yeah.
All right.
Good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. Moving on. Veterans Affairs. Oh, we have second public comment. If anybody left who would like to make, yes, sir. Step on up. I like your sweatshirt. You knew I would. You wore it just for me. You wore that just for me, didn't you?
Good evening. It's been a while since I've addressed this body.
Identify yourself, please.
Yep, Mark McKellar. I'm a resident of the county, 2050 East River Road. No, I'm not here for the road commission.
Okay.
We've been dealing with, there was some talk earlier about the dam removal. Sonny mentioned, I think, 15 years. We've been dealing with that for that long. Decades ago, people made a decision, sat in rooms and thought that was the greatest thing that to come up with, and they drove off the cliff. And here we are several years or several decades later dealing with that. So what's going on? The reason I'm here tonight is to talk about the little things in life. Ecosystems on wild brook trout. I happen to live on a river. I've seen it restore itself in the last 3 years from the flood. The fact of the matter is the DNR has not planted anything in that river since before 79. There's no records that I can find. They planted at the mouth of downriver of the Weir, rainbow and brown trout in like 2 or 3 batches. Group was in 2017 and another was like 1995. They planted millions of coho salmon though, millions. So why am I talking to you guys? As you mentioned, there's been a partnership to remove the dams and restore the river. For decades, the county has supported the Grand Traverse County Conservation District in the restoration and maintenance of that river to a cold water stream. Now, with all the dams removed, we're in jeopardy because the city has decided that they want to put in a bi-directional fish weir, or not fish weir, fish passage. It's totally experimental. It's all conceptual, no actual reality. A lot of scientists talking about it, but it's not in their community. So the city's made a decision to go forward with this at this point. I think the county has a hand in this. I think the county has some responsibility to look at what's going on. If they bring in this fish passage, it could fail. It may not. But we have a natural, wild brook trout stream in our backyard, folks, in our county. It affects Kalkaska County, and it affects Grand Traverse County. The decision they make downtown in the city could impact the upriver because of the DNR, because the DNR, tribal government, and citizen-led committees, fisheries part of it, will determine what fish passage through. My understanding, tribal government wants to have the sturgeon. But the DNR would like to have.
You can continue.
Can I?
Yeah, wrap
Because I
it up.
represent a group of property owners,
Okay,
homeowners.
another couple minutes.
Give me some levity and cut me
All
off
right.
when you want. All
Okay.
right. So what's going on is that the DNR will ultimately have the decision what's going to pass. Now, all around us in neighboring counties, up and down the coastline of Lake Michigan, we have coho and salmon fisheries. They have, in essence, turned the Platte River from a trout stream to a salmon rookery. You can't go down there and hardly catch a trout, okay? And if you do, it won't be a native wild trout, okay? You go down to Pierre Marquette, you go down to any of the rivers along here, the same thing. You go talk to people in Benzie County, the Betsy River has been destroyed. The river banks are eroded, the erosion from the foot traffic and the fishermen is crazy. Now, I've been a trout fisherman for 49 years. I've done it all. But the fact is the DNR is looking for something that's sustainable, it doesn't cost money. They haven't put any money into anything above the dams. That upriver stretch is a natural beauty river with a self-sustaining wild brook trout fishery. If that fish directional passage gets opened up and they allow coho salmon or salmon and steelhead up into that river, that will wipe out, it will decimate a self-sustaining natural brook trout fishery. And it is going to be a mess. And so I just wanted to come here tonight and say, hey, folks, guess what? County was responsible for taking out the dams. There was a lot of partners in the implementation meetings. There wasn't a lot of conversation about what was going to happen at the end of the road. But the county spent, I don't know, thousands and thousands of dollars. Steve Largent spent his almost entire life making that river like it is with the Conservation District and the help of a lot of people. And in the flip of a switch, in 2029, they could open that passage up. They could flood it with coho or salmon and steelhead. And quite frankly, I don't think it's a good idea to have the big lake fish that are loaded with mercury dying up through that watershed. So it's a bigger decision than just one government entity, the city, deciding for the rest of the people, 85% of the watershed, what's going to happen up there. So yeah, I'm here to talk about the little trout. I'm here to talk about wild trout, which is rare in the United States, folks. So we have a gem in our backyard. It's a natural, beautiful thing, and I think that, you know, this is just the beginning of a conversation that I want to have. I'm open for any questions you have, and yes, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing all that up, because it's very important, and I don't think people realize one type of sport fishing versus another type of sport fishing. It probably could only be one or the other, the way I understand it.
Oh, well, look,
yeah.
You know, I'm a fisherman, so I'm not opposed to other fishermen. What I'm
No, but I mean,
decimating the
you're
river.
going to have certain fish that aren't there today with what's planned.
Oh, yeah, and thank you, because I'd like to make the point that salmon are saltwater fish, and that's been an ecological disaster on top of the fact that they had to bring alewives, which is an ecological disaster, to feed them. It's been going on for years, and it doesn't self-maintain. That's why the weirs are there, to capture the fish, get the eggs, treat them, and do that.
I think, do you know that the city is going to be having a presentation on the experimental fish ladder?
October 10th.
Yeah, that's very important. Everybody should attend that. I saw it once already, and I think the way they explain it, they actually compare it to the sorting of recycled items.
Exactly.
You know, based on weight, size, and other characteristics, they can do sorting, but there is some risk to it. And then the risk that isn't even a risk at all is that there is some intention to bring these lake fish up into the river.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, so I'm very concerned. Anything that you can send me here to the 400 Boardman address on that, I will read it, and I am concerned.
Yeah, and no, people don't know about it, so that's
Thank
what
you.
we're talking about. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else for second public comment? Okay, we're going to move to notices. I just have one notice. We have some vacancies that will be coming up through at the end of the year on some of our boards and committees, and I wanted the public to know that there will be open positions at the end of the year on all of these boards: Economic Development, the Road Commission, the Traverse Area District Library, Beta, Parks and Recreation, Community Corrections, Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, the Airport Commission, Northern Lakes Community Mental Health, Board of Public Works, Planning Commission, and the Veterans Affairs Administrative Board. The updates on the vacancies will be on our website, so you'll have lots of opportunity to apply for these vacancies. If you're interested in any of these, go to the website, read about them, or you can call administration, ask any questions that you have, or contact your commissioner.
What about
Yes.
Pension Advisory Board?
I think we haven't decided what to do with that.
Okay.
Did we decide what to do with
We
that?
sort of did. We
sort
selected
of-
an ad hoc committee to find new Pension Advisory Board members.
I'm not sure that was...
I don't
can ask-
remember us doing that.
I don't remember us selecting an ad hoc. Ms. Kramer might know. Did we select an ad hoc to select new board members for Pension Advisory? We did, didn't we? And she will find out who that is. Did we advertise for that yet?
We have not.
Okay, so we'll add Pension Advisory Board.
Advertising for all of these together.
Yeah, so I'd add that to the list.
Add that to the list to advertise for Pension Advisory
List for us to be interviewing people for all of these boards. I mean, we have to do it all at one fell swoop.
They all have vacancies that will be at the end of 17.
Vacancies that come up between now and the end of the year.
Well, then maybe we could start now rather than waiting
Right.
until they're all...
So Chris is going to advertise for all of these, and I just wanted to let the public know that now is the opportunity to apply if you're interested in any of these boards, including the Pension Advisory Board. Okay? All right, so understand that we do have a closed session.
You have to give my 5-minute update.
Oh, I'm sorry. Bonnie's going to give us a 5-minute update.
I'm on the agenda.
From the county clerk's office. I'm sorry.
Having passed down just a snapshot of last year. We were very busy. We're busy every year. I have 2 very busy offices, the Circuit Court Records Office, which is located in the Hall of Justice, and the Vital Records and Elections Office, which is located here in the Governmental Center. So I just kind of passed that around. But my big news is you did approve that we could apply for a grant last month for our voting equipment. Every single county in the state is getting new voting equipment. Some of them have already got their new equipment. We chose to hold off until 2018 to start using our new equipment. We have a November election coming up this year, and we're going to use the old equipment, and then we're going to get our hands on those new machines and get really good at them and be able to train our workers. My website has, under the elections section of my website, there's a tab that says voting equipment, and there's just these 2 little videos that show the new equipment. We have new tabulators and the new voter accessible machines for the handicapped. Although anybody can use those, and some jurisdictions downstate like those so much they're going to use those instead of the traditional tabulator, because they use a thermal paper, and it's a lot cheaper than buying ballots, and it's kind of a touch screen, but it still prints out. We still have a paper trail if we ever needed to do a recount. We're really excited. All 14 jurisdictions have accepted or have submitted their grants. It's HAVA money, Help America Vote Act grant money, and the state appropriated some money. Senator Schmidt and Representative Inman actually helped get those votes through for us, too. When I talked to them, it was really important. We chose ES&S, which we think is a very good company, and so look for new equipment next year. You'll like it. I think the public will really like it. It's very easy to use for both the public and the workers. Very, very secure. Do not worry at all about hacking or anything. The security on these things is great, and I've got our IT department involved with my new servers that I'm going to get, and which are separate from the county servers even for security. So, very excited.
Any questions for Bonnie in that lovely 3-minute update? Very good. Okay. Thank you, Bonnie. So we have a closed session this evening. So I will make a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of discussing with Labor Council, number 1, fact-finding status with 4 Teamsters bargaining units, number 2, contract negotiations for various bargaining units, and number 3, the Merck decision on unfair labor practices, charges filed by the COAM, and TPOAM regarding employee health insurance payments under PA 152.
Support.
Who supported that?
Sunny did.
Do we expect to make a decision coming out of this closed session?
I don't think so.
Well, it's just nice to let the public know whether we're expecting to come back and make a decision.
Don't think so, really. Any decisions, I think, require all of us to know, and so it's more of an update than anything else. So I don't expect a decision. So moved by Commissioner Crawford, seconded by Commissioner Wheelock, and we need a roll call vote, please, Bonnie. And we need 2
Mayor?
votes. But going into closed session, yes or no?
Oh, yes, definitely.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Klaus?
Yes.
Gore Follett?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yep.
Crawford?
Yes. Okay.
And
All
are we
right.
going somewhere?
We are
To the city manager's conference room?
City Manager's Conference Room. Feel free to take snacks, because we're not...